Football is often called the beautiful game, a sport filled with passion, glory, and unforgettable moments. But behind the roaring stadiums and legendary goals lies a darker side that has shaken fans around the world. Throughout history, tragic incidents have claimed the lives of talented players in shocking and heartbreaking ways. From on-field collapses to devastating accidents, these stories remind us how fragile life can be. Today, we take a look at the 5 worst football player deaths ever, moments that left the world in silence and changed the sport forever. On a warm August night in Seville, the Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan Stadium was alive with noise. It was the opening La Liga match of the 2007-08 season, and few in the crowd could have imagined they were about to witness one of football's most heartbreaking moments. In the 35th minute, a young star in white, Antonio Puerta, suddenly crouched near the edge of the penalty area. For a second, it looked harmless, maybe dizziness, maybe cramp. Then he fell. Teammates Ivica Dragutinovic and Andres Palop rushed toward him as panic rippled through the stadium. The cheers turned to silence. Medical staff sprinted onto the pitch. Millions watching on television held their breath. Puerta briefly regained consciousness. He was helped to his feet. He even walked off the field on his own. And for a fragile moment, it seemed like everything might be okay. But behind the closed doors of the dressing room, tragedy struck again. He collapsed a second time. Doctors fought to revive him. CPR, oxygen, urgency. An ambulance carried him to Virgen del Rocío Hospital as fans gathered outside, praying, hoping, refusing to believe the worst could happen to a 22-year-old at the peak of his life. For 3 days, the football world waited. On 28th of August 2007, at 14:30, the devastating news was confirmed. Puerta had died after suffering multiple cardiac arrests caused by arrhythmogenic cardiomyopathy, a rare hereditary heart disease. He wasn't just another player. Born in Seville, he had joined Sevilla FC as a boy and spent 14 years growing through the club's youth system. He came up alongside names that would later become stars: Sergio Ramos, Jesus Navas, Jose Antonio Reyes. His left foot became part of Sevilla folklore on 27 April 2006, when he struck a dramatic late goal against FC Schalke 04 in the UEFA Cup semi-final. That goal sent Sevilla to the final, and into one of the most successful eras in their history. Over 15 unforgettable months, the club lifted 5 trophies. Puerta scored his penalty in the 2007 UEFA Cup final against RCD Espanyol, with the calm of a veteran, not a 22-year-old. Europe was watching. Arsenal, Manchester United, Real Madrid. Interest was building. Spain had already capped him once in a Euro 2008 qualifier against Sweden. The future felt enormous. And then, in one unbearable week, it was gone. What made the loss even more painful was what awaited him off the pitch. His girlfriend was expecting their first child. He would never meet his son. The shockwaves were immediate. Players from Sevilla and rivals Real Betis stood side by side at his funeral, united in grief. A Champions League qualifier was postponed. During the UEFA Super Cup against AC Milan, every player wore Puerta on the back of their shirt. Black armbands replaced celebration. Even years later, when Spain won Euro 2008 and the 2010 World Cup, Sergio Ramos and Jesus Navas lifted tribute shirts bearing his name, a reminder that some teammates are never forgotten. Sevilla tried to retire his number 16 shirt, wanting it to belong to him forever. Regulations complicated that promise, but emotionally, that number will always carry his story. Antonio Puerta's story is not just about a tragic death. It is a reminder of how fragile even the strongest among us can be. It is about dreams interrupted, about teammates who became brothers, about a city that still whispers his name.
Richards Bay FC have confirmed that one of their players has passed away. Club captain Siphamandla Mtolo has died. Spepe, as he was known to his teammates, collapsed during training, according to his team.
On the morning of 7th of March 2023, it was just another training session in KwaZulu-Natal. The sun was up, boots were laced, and teammates were going through routine drills with about 15 minutes left before wrapping up. Nothing felt unusual, nothing felt dangerous, and then, without warning, Siphamandla Mtolo suddenly went down. At first, it didn't look like the end of a life. It looked like exhaustion, maybe a knock, maybe dizziness. But as teammates rushed toward him, panic replaced routine. He was struggling to breathe. The club's physiotherapist tried to help. Voices grew louder. Fear spread across the pitch. This wasn't just another training stoppage. There were no flashing stadium lights, no roaring crowd, no dramatic match moment. Just silence, confusion, and growing desperation. He was placed in a private car, there was no time to wait, and driven toward the hospital. Every second mattered. Every second felt heavier than the last, but he never made it. Siphamandla Spepe Mtolo was gone at just 29 years old. The news hit like a shockwave across South African football. Richards Bay FC, the club he captained and helped lead to promotion, confirmed the tragedy in a statement filled with grief. His presence, both on and off the pitch, will be missed, they wrote. But those words barely captured the emptiness left behind. Spepe wasn't just a midfielder. He was a leader. He had carried Richards Bay to the 2021-22 National First Division title, earning promotion to the country's top flight, the Premier Soccer League. When the dream of top division football finally arrived, fate tested him. A knee injury required surgery. He missed the start of the 2022-23 season. Many wondered when he would return. He came back sooner than expected. In December 2022, he stepped onto the pitch in the Premier Division, stronger, determined, wearing the captain's armband. It was a comeback story unfolding in real time. His final match came just days before his death on 4th March 2023 against Kaizer Chiefs, one of the biggest clubs in South Africa. No one watching could have imagined it would be the last time he would ever play. When the announcement was made, tributes poured in. The Premier Soccer League declared moments of silence at upcoming fixtures. The South African Football Association offered condolences, describing the loss as untimely and heartbreaking. Across stadiums that week, crowds stood quietly, thousands of people united in grief for a man who had collapsed in the most ordinary of moments. That's what makes it so painful. Not a final whistle, not a grand stage, just a regular morning, a normal drill, 15 minutes left. He was nicknamed Spepe, a name that echoed warmly among teammates and fans. He was buried in his hometown of Shakaskrao. At his funeral, held at Nkobongo Sports Ground, teammates carried his casket. The same players who had once celebrated victories with him now, walking in silence beside him. Football often feels larger than life. The goals, the rivalries, the trophies. But moments like this strip the game down to something painfully human. A 29-year-old captain, a comeback in motion, a life interrupted without warning. On a warm August evening in 2001, a routine Russian Premier League match became one of the darkest nights in football history. The stadium lights were blazing, the game was tense, and in goal for CSKA Moscow stood 23-year-old Serhii Perkun, a goalkeeper whose career was only just beginning. Against FC Anzi Makhachkala, Perkun rushed off his line to challenge for a high ball. An opposing striker leapt at the same moment. Heads collided mid-air. The sound echoed. The crowd fell silent. At first, it didn't look fatal, just another brutal clash in a physical league. Perkun lay on the pitch, medical staff surrounding him. He briefly regained consciousness. There was hope. In football, players get knocked down and come back all the time. But this time was different. Born on September 4th, 1977, in Dnipropetrovsk, now Dnipro, Ukraine, Perkun had been a prodigy from the start. At just 16 years and 34 days old, he debuted in Ukraine's top division for FC Dnipro, becoming the youngest player in league history at the time. Calm, fearless, and mature beyond his years, he steadily built his reputation. A move to FC Sheriff Tiraspol followed, where he became first-choice goalkeeper and won the 1998-99 Moldovan Cup. In early 2001, he signed with CSKA Moscow and quickly claimed the starting spot. In 13 league matches, he kept 5 clean sheets and conceded just 6 goals. His rise was undeniable. Days before the collision, he earned his senior debut for Ukraine in a friendly against Latvia, playing the second half in a 1-0 win. It felt like the start of something bigger. More caps, bigger stages, a long career ahead. 3 days later, everything changed. What initially seemed like a severe concussion became far worse. A cerebral hemorrhage developed. His condition deteriorated rapidly. He suffered cardiac arrest and was transferred to a military hospital in Moscow. For 10 days, doctors fought to save him. On August 28, 2001, Serhiy Perkun died. He was 23. He remains the only player in Russian Premier League history to die from injuries sustained during an official match. The shock rippled through football communities in both Ukraine and Russia. Rivalries faded into the background. This wasn't about competition anymore. It was about loss. His body was returned to his hometown, where thousands gathered for his funeral. Teammates from CSKA Moscow stood shoulder to shoulder with family members. Fans wept openly. The grief felt collective, raw. In response, CSKA Moscow made a decision that spoke volumes. They retired the number 16 shirt, the number Perkun wore. No future player at the club would ever wear it again. In football, shirt numbers carry history. By retiring his, CSKA ensured that his presence would never fade into statistics. Every time fans look at the squad list and see 16 missing, they remember. And his story didn't vanish with time. In Dnipro, a monument was erected in his honor. Annual tournaments have been held in his name. His father even wrote a book, My Son is a Goalkeeper, preserving the memory not just of a footballer, but of a son, a husband, a father. Perkun's career lasted only around 80 professional matches. 1 senior international cap, a domestic cup title. On paper, it seems brief. But his story is not about statistics. It's about promise. A teenage record breaker, a rising first-choice goalkeeper, a national team debutant whose future was unfolding in real time. Every time a goalkeeper charges into traffic to claim a ball, there is risk in that bravery. Serhiy Perkun stepped onto the pitch on August 18, 2001, expecting to play 90 minutes of football. He never left the game alive. More than 2 decades later, his story remains a painful reminder of how fragile even the strongest athletes can be, and how one moment can change everything. On a tense night in São Paulo, under the bright lights of a Copa Libertadores knockout match, no one expected football to stop breathing. The clock was ticking through the second half. The stadium was loud, alive, restless. Players were battling for every ball, and in the middle of it all was Juan Izquierdo, 27 years old, a center-back in his prime, fighting for his team the way he always had. Then, without warning, he collapsed. At first, there was confusion. Players looked around, unsure of what they were seeing. Then panic crept in. Medical staff sprinted onto the pitch. Teammates waved frantically for help. The noise inside the stadium shifted, from chants and whistles to a stunned, suffocating silence. Izquierdo was rushed off and taken to the Albert Einstein Hospital in São Paulo. The diagnosis was cardiac arrhythmia. His heart, for reasons no one understood at the time, had fallen into a dangerous rhythm during one of the most physically intense moments of competition. Back home in Uruguay, football stopped. Matches in the first and second divisions were postponed. Rivalries were set aside. Supporters who normally argued over clubs were suddenly united in one desperate hope that Juan would wake up, that this would be another scare with a happy ending. But this time, it wasn't. To understand why his collapse hit so deeply, you have to understand who Juan Izquierdo was. Born on July 4, 1997, in Montevideo, he grew up in the Nuevo Paris neighborhood with dreams like so many Uruguayan kids. A ball at his feet and a stadium in his imagination. He began in the youth ranks of Liverpool Montevideo before making his professional debut with Cerro in 2018. Within days of his Copa Sudamericana debut, he stepped into Uruguay's Primera Division. thrown into the deep end against seasoned professionals. He didn't back down. Over the next few years, he carved out a reputation as a tough, dependable center-back. He wore the colors of Peñarol, Montevideo Wanderers, Liverpool, and Nacional. He even took a chance abroad with Atlético San Luis in Mexico's Liga MX. The journey wasn't always smooth. There were limited minutes, injuries, frustrations, but he kept returning, kept fighting for his place. In 2022, he was part of a title-winning national squad, even though injury restricted his playing time. He spoke openly about how surreal it felt to share a club with Luis Suarez, a player he had admired as a boy. Imagine growing up watching your idol, then training beside him. In 2023, he moved to Liverpool Montevideo and delivered the best season of his career. He scored 3 goals in 31 appearances as the club won the league for the first time in over a century. He had made a promise to his dying grandfather that he would bring a title home. He kept that promise. Few players can say they won back-to-back league titles with different clubs in consecutive seasons. Juan Izquierdo did. By early 2024, he returned to Nacional, brought back to strengthen the defense. On May 3rd, he scored what would become the final goal of his life in a 4-2 win over Racing Club de Montevideo. No one watching that celebration could have imagined it would be his last. And then came August 22nd. During the Copa Libertadores round of 16 against São Paulo FC, Izquierdo collapsed. Doctors later confirmed the cause: cardiorespiratory arrest associated with cardiac arrhythmia. He had not been known to have any heart condition. According to his mother, doctors explained that a virus had entered his heart, triggering the fatal rhythm disturbance under the physical strain of the match. There had been no clear warning signs, just swollen lymph nodes, nothing that screamed danger. For 5 days, the football world waited. Juan Izquierdo didn't lose a match that evening. Football lost him.
Ndërkohë që ka probleme Duamena. Ka probleme Duamena.
It was November 11th, 2023, in Albania, when football turned silent. Rafael Duamena, just 28 years old, was leading the line for KF Ignacia in a league clash against FK Partizani. He was in motion 1 second, sprinting, scanning, alive with that familiar striker's hunger, and the next, he was down. No challenge, no contact, just a sudden collapse. Teammates immediately waved for medical help. The referee stopped the match. Paramedics rushed onto the pitch as confusion rippled through the stadium. Supporters who had been chanting moments earlier now stood frozen, watching in disbelief. Despite desperate attempts to revive him, Rafael Duamena was pronounced dead on the way to the hospital. The cause was sudden cardiac arrest. For many, it was shocking. For those who knew his history, it was heartbreaking in a different way. Duamena's career had always carried a shadow. Years earlier, while rising rapidly through European football, doctors discovered a serious heart condition. In 2017, he was on the verge of what looked like a life-changing move to Brighton and Hove Albion, after scoring 12 goals in 18 matches for FC Zurich. It should have been his breakthrough into the Premier League. Instead, he failed his medical due to a heart abnormality. The transfer collapsed. A dream dissolved overnight. To protect his life, he underwent surgery and had an implantable cardioverter defibrillator, ICD, fitted in his chest, a device designed to shock his heart back into rhythm if it stopped. It was a safeguard, a warning that his body had limits. But Duamena was never someone who accepted limits easily. He moved on to play for Levante UD in La Liga, later going on loan to Real Zaragoza and continuing his journey across Denmark and Austria. His career became a cycle of promise, setback, and return. Each time doubt surfaced about his heart, he stepped away, and each time he fought his way back. In 2021, while playing in Austria, he collapsed during a match. That day, the ICD inside his chest delivered a life-saving shock. It restarted his heart. It gave him another chance. Many would have taken that as a final warning. But football was more than a profession to Duamena. It was identity. It was purpose. It was life itself. When he signed with KF Ignacia in Albania, he made a decision that would define his final chapter. He had the ICD removed. He wanted to play freely again, without the constant reminder of fragility beneath his ribs. Doctors had cautioned him before. The risks were clear. Still, he chose the pitch, and for a while it felt like redemption. He scored, he celebrated, he smiled. In 2023, he even netted twice in a European qualifier for Ignacia, reigniting belief that he had truly outrun his past. Fans admired his courage. Teammates respected his resilience. He looked like a man rewriting his own story. But some battles are fought quietly, deep inside the body. That November afternoon, as he lay on the grass surrounded by medics, the stadium grew unbearably still. Players from both sides were in tears. The game no longer mattered. The scoreboard no longer mattered. Within hours, the news traveled from Albania to Europe and then back home to Ghana, where Dlamini had once dazzled scouts at the Red Bull Ghana Academy with his explosive pace and finishing. To many young players, he had been proof that talent and determination could carry you from dusty local pitches to Europe's brightest stages. The following day, football matches across Albania were postponed in mourning. Tributes poured in from clubs, teammates, and supporters around the world. They spoke not only of his goals, but of his spirit, his warmth in the locker room, his refusal to surrender to fear, his determination to live fully despite knowing the risks. In February 2024, he was laid to rest on a football pitch in Accra, Ghana, a symbolic farewell for a man whose life began and ended with the game. He was buried with his boots and jersey, surrounded by family, friends, and grieving fans.